That good of a dinner, huh?
3, 2, 1, record.
Third period, March 21st.
Time for the third and final period here on the Puck Podcast. And I want to thank all of our fine friends over on Patreon. If you would like to support us, being a patron on Patreon, it is patreon.com/Puck Podcast. And thank you to all who have supported us on Patreon. Really appreciate it. Any Chris Kohler updates this week, Doug?
No, I do not have any for you at all.
The GoFundMe page still out there. If anybody wants to contribute, GoFundMe.com/search for Chris Kohler, KRISKOLLER. Hope Chris is doing well. If you're listening to this, Chris. And also, of course, shout out to our friend David Talley, CustomHockeyJerseys.com. If you'd like to get yourself some Puck Podcast merchandise, go to TalleyCustomHockeyJerseys.com. Click on the Puck Podcast link. You can see the different jerseys that are available and the hats and all that kind of good stuff. Great quality items at reasonable prices. And if you're in the need for any hockey jerseys yourself, Dave is definitely the man to see. Let's get to the emails. Not too many this week. Doug, why don't you lead us off?
And this comes from Mike, the Capitals fan from Florida. He's capitalized the, so I think he's the only one.
It's like the Ohio State University?
That could be. Mm-hmm. Evening, gents. Sorry this was supposed to go out over the weekend. I've been a listener to you for over a year, and I felt as a first-time writer this was a great opportunity to write in. First, a bit about me. I'm originally from the DMV. Now, you and I know that as the Department of Motor Vehicles. And what in the hell does that mean?
I think that's DMV. Is it like DC, Maryland, Virginia? That area?
That makes sense. That's why he would be a Capitals fan. That makes sense.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's right.
Or he's from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Now living in the Sunshine State. I came late to the hockey scene during the last stages of the Bondra, Gonchar, Godzilla, Kolzig era. I've watched the Capitals since then. My wife and I met in 2018, and with the exception of one game, we watched the entire Capitals run when they went to the Cup. That's outstanding.
Nice.
Yeah, my then girlfriend, now wife, stood in line for 6 hours to get our 2 seconds with the Cup and got our picture taken. That's outstanding. In the words of the Sandlot, hockey is life, and my wife knows it. I've never seen the Sandlot. I think what's his name is in it, and I refuse to.
I think what's his name is in it. Yeah, what's his name is definitely in it.
Yeah. God, I can't even remember his name. Dennis.
I don't even know. Oh God. Okay, no wonder you haven't seen it.
I believe he's in it, and if so, I refuse to see anything he's in because he stole material and persona from my favorite comedian. And then as soon as my favorite comedian died of cancer, suddenly he retired from comedy and became an actor. Beat it.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it either. It's one of those movies that I know has a cult following.
It's for the generation beyond us, you know. We were too old to watch a kids movie at that age. You know, when you're in your 20s, you're not going to watch movies that are for teenagers and younger.
Yeah, there's a few that always slip through the cracks though. I mean, I still have never seen Goonies, which I know is people just gasp when I tell them I've never seen that before, but
yeah,
I haven't seen it.
I wouldn't watch it now. You're not going to like it, although it stars Academy Award winners now.
That's right.
And you're going to be like, oh, Thanos. And unfortunately, people that are dead.
But I don't see Dennis Leary, though, in the Sandlot here. I don't see his name here.
No?
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. I do. He's there.
Yeah.
Bill.
I was going to
say. Bill.
Yeah.
Never
He's
mind.
in it enough to keep me from ever watching it. Mike continues. I root for the Avalanche and Ducks. Patrick Waugh and Teemu Selanne are two of my all-time favorites. Those are two great ones. Other background details to come. Anyhow, back to the trade deadline for the Capitals. I think GM did what not only was needed, but the only thing to do. Let's be honest. Caps fans, even if we make the playoffs, the East is so stacked we would be obliterated. I say embrace the tank for even the slimmest hope of getting a top 5 pick. Get farm and system capital, pun not intended. Our GM strategy was, I will sign you for 3 years. If not, I will trade you. Do you think 3 years is a random number? No. Ovechkin is signed for 3 years. This team needs to get younger, and that's a struggle because Peter Laviolette, does not like playing younger players. However, our GM has said, well, you have 11 forwards and 4 defensemen under contract next year. If I renew your contract, you will have to play young guys. GM went out and traded the players it would have been difficult to keep and got draft resources. There was a lot of talk that the Capitals were trying to go in on Chychrun, which I'm glad we didn't. Capitals fans said while trading away our team, wow, we won't have anyone I know on the team. I know this maybe was a joke, but as a diehard myself, asking Eller and Orlov are the only ones you know? I would give GMBM an A because we got younger, got resources, traded for a solid 22-year-old defenseman without having to give up the farm. I think we should continue to lose games to get a top 10 pick, so go after a reasonable top 6 forward and inject some youth in the offseason. I like our prospects like Connor McMichael, Hendrix Lapierre, and Ivan Miroshnichenko. They just need a significant shot to have some time on the ice. I seriously hope we don't make the playoffs and try to have a soft rebuild for next season. This is not popular among the Capitals fans. I will keep what I call them to myself, but it is the only logical course. Anyways, apologies for the long email. I hope to write in more. Well, we hope you do too, Mike, the Capitals fan in Florida. And if you're wondering who GMBM is, that's General Manager Brian McClellan. It seems to be a trendy thing these days to call it GM, initials of the guy.
It does.
And I don't know why that is, but every team seems to do it. So if you're wondering who's he talking about, it's Brian McClellan, the GM of the Capitals that was the GM when they won the Stanley Cup as well. So he's been there a while and has had plenty of success.
Our next email comes from Timothy, and he is hailing from the great state of Idaho.
Oh my.
He says, yeah, howdy, fellas. Tim here. He says, Penguins fan in Pocatello, Idaho.
Wow.
I am writing this after they lost to the Senators 2-1, 4 straight losses with losses to Montreal and Ottawa. I am not a fan of Ron Hextall. Extremely frustrated. Crosby, Letang, and Malkin all are having good years. It's being wasted. He spent so much money, talking about Hextall, on these guys and then won't spend a first-round pick at the trade deadline to help them win. Isn't he supposed to help them win now? He's ruining the Penguins like he did the Flyers. For example, protecting Jeff Carter at the Seattle expansion draft, then signing him to an extension. We have him for one more year after this one. Guess who's the one player we gave up? Jared McCann. By the way, if you don't know, he's playing very well for the Seattle Kraken. They won't scratch Carter for a game. Does Hextall have something on Sullivan? Mikael Granlund is a decent player, but $5 million worth for 2 more years. In the summer, they gave up John Moreno to the Devils for a prospect and a draft pick. Then they got older by trading Mike Matheson for Jeff Petrie. All Hextall is doing is making us older. I'll stop here, but if the Penguins don't make the playoffs, Hextall should be fired. And Tim may be in Idaho, but I know there are a lot of people in the Berg who will echo his comments.
Oh, 100%. But as I said, and as I pointed out in the first period, it's not an easy fix for whoever replaces him. And I think that would hurt the job. I think that would hurt the allure of the job. If you got a lot of qualified candidates, if I'm a first-time GM, I don't think I want that job because your hands are so tied with the contracts and the team's going to be bad for a few years. By the time you get a chance to really put your print on that team and make the moves to get this thing turned around, there's no prospects in the pipeline of any quality. There are bad contracts that you're tied down with no movement and no trade clauses. I wouldn't want that job. I'd rather sit around and wait for another opportunity or be an assistant GM on a good team than be the GM of a team that I can't really control, and the fans are going to be upset with the job I do because I'm not doing enough to get the thing turned around quick enough. So it'd be a tough job to replace him. My last email comes from Ryan. He's up in Santa Clarita. He says, hey, Doug and Eddie, my excitement in writing about Jordan Binnington's suspension has been palpable this week. This guy has tried to fight anyone and everyone this season after a fiery playoff run ending in controversy, and has even been told by his coach, and I'm paraphrasing, to keep the passion, but stop the antics and just play in net. While the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League may think banning fighting altogether is a good move for the sport, I disagree, and I wish Fleury had been given the chance to beat some sense into the angry blue bastard. But alas, it was not meant to be. I again want to point out, as I did in the first period, you say that, but what if Fleury had gotten his ass kicked by the angry blue bastard? Would you still think, oh, I'm glad they let him fight? We all like, that would be horrible. Stop. It'd be Adrian in Rocky, throw the damn towel. The corner man. Just stop the fight. He continues, does Ryan. However, to say the sport is going soft or what Bennington has been doing is good for the game is outrageous. 2 games is better than none, but I would have been okay with a game for every time he let a player get under his skin. And then Hoffer comes in and plays lights out for those 2 games. I'm not sure who they would go with in net as a number 1 instead next year, but the writing seems to be on the wall for Bennington, and I couldn't be happier. That is all. He says, all the best, Ryan in Santa Clarita. Yeah, it's I think they're tired of his act there, and because they're not a very good team anymore, I don't think it's he's not even winning. You're willing to put up with it while he's winning. He's not even winning. So if you're not going to help us win and you're going to embarrass the franchise, time for you to go.
And our final email comes from Hart. He is in Lake Echo, Nova Scotia, and he says, gentlemen, which club with a mediocre regular season record has the best chance of being this year's Cinderella team in the playoffs? Can any of the Jets, Kraken, Predators, Flames, Panthers, Penguins, or Islanders make it to the Cup Finals? I suppose the thought is the West is more open. I'm thinking the Kraken have the chemistry to potentially upset a more top-heavy roster. What do you guys say? Again, that is Hart in Lake Echo, Nova Scotia. I like the Kraken, but their goaltending is such a huge question mark that I don't think I would pick them. I think because of that group he mentioned, I probably think the Panthers are the best team, but in the East, I don't like their chances. So I probably would have to go with Winnipeg just because of the potential of Connor Hellebuck maybe getting hot at the right time and because they're in the West. But I don't feel great about any of those teams thinking they're going to be a Cinderella. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd go with Winnipeg.
Well, if he's going mediocre regular season record and he's saying Jets, Kraken, Predators, Flames, Panthers, Penguins, or Islanders, first of all, a few of those teams are not even going to make the playoffs. The Panthers, Penguins, and Islanders, one of those 3 is not making it. And the Predators and Flames, probably both of them are not making it. So then it gets down to the Jets, the Kraken, or which of the 3, two of the 3 in the East. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if I had to pick any of them, I'd say the Penguins, only because of their streakiness. If they get on a hot streak, then that can roll, and they've got some veteran talent there. I don't see the Jets making it in the West, although, as you said, if they win the first round, it only gets easier from there because they've already beaten the top seed. But so I'd have to say the Jets in the West and the Penguins in the East if I had to pick one of those teams. But I don't think any of them are going anywhere. If I was going to pick a mediocre team that was going to make a run, it would be Edmonton. I think if they get even decent goaltending, they could have the offense to go on a nice run here in the postseason if they get the decent goaltending. But I don't know if they qualify as mediocre, since they basically have the same number of points as the division leaders in the Central.
All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you to all who took the time to send us an email this week. If you would like to send us an email for next week's show, very easy to do. The email address is feedback@puckpodcast.com. We're on Twitter @puckpodcast and on Facebook, facebook.com/puckpodcast. And again, if you'd like to support us on Patreon, it is patreon.com/puckpodcast. Doug, any final thoughts before we close it out for another week?
No, sir. Looking forward to some competitive games and hopefully no injuries as we get down the stretch here.
All right. So that'll do for this week's show. Thank you very much for listening. For Doug Stoll and Eddie Garcia, we'll talk to you next week with another edition of the Puck Podcast. Any final thoughts for our friends on Patreon?
No.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, one last thought before we go.
Yes.
Because I don't think it was on the air. Has anybody seen the movie Cobra? And would you recommend it?
No, that was not on the air. It was an off-the-air discussion. I had mentioned that it was on one of the many televisions at work because the late night hours that I work, there's no sports on. So a lot of times the folks that are working there will throw on some movies. I don't know why they pay for the movie channels at my work, but some of the people I work with are thrilled that they do that. And Cobra,
I don't think they pay for the movie channels so much as they have DirecTV.
Well, you still have to pay for the movie channels on DirecTV. like
But
HBO
is
and all
it
stuff.
HBO or is
Yeah.
it? Oh,
Yep.
okay. I thought it was just like FX or whatever.
No, it's the actual movie channel.
So wait a minute. Cobra was on HBO?
One of those. I mean, I don't know that it was on HBO. It could have been Showtime or one of
That's
those things.
outrageous. I'm not paying you however much a month to watch movies from 30 some years ago,
Yeah.
35, almost 40 years ago now that are terrible. That's terrible. That'd be like when you and I were growing up. Hey, I just got HBO. What are they showing? A movie from 1948. What? And it was terrible then. Why?
I don't know. There's somebody wanted to watch it, I guess. Not me. Not me. All right. That'll do it. Thank you, Patreon supporters. We'll talk to you later.